Hello, welcome to Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to Stream Streak Day 152. I'm joined by the Stream Streak's very first guest, Mr. Donald Taylor. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Some would say the best guest.
Some would say the best guest, but you're not actually even my best guest today, because in the background is my very best guest. Could you introduce our newest Honest Wargamer, please, Donald?
It's Xander Taylor, who's almost crying in the background. Almost crying.
How old is Xander now?
22 days.
No way.
So 130 days into lockdown.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, hey to Xander, by the way. So, that's fun. Me and Donald today, we're going to be talking about the new White Dwarf Squig Battalion / Battletome. Also just seeing how Donald's doing as well and seeing how he is at the moment. Big shout out to the Templar for subscribing and W. Soren. Thank you to everyone who's joined us live on Twitch. Grinaldi, Asia Sebmar, Diadrin, Yes Meatballs, how you doing? I know I still need to send you that link. Rob Kelly, big love. MJ Pegasus and Tristan, moderator extraordinaire. Oh, Diadrin also thanks for subscribing. So yeah, that's the plan. That's what we're going to be doing today. Very excited. But before we do talk about that, Donald, how are you? Are you well? What's been going on?
Well, I had a baby who's now started crying, so that's good. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty eventful in terms of as lockdown goes. And expected. It wasn't like it was a surprise. So that was good. Hobbies taking a back seat, but I think I've painted 2 ogres since we last spoke. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of as fast as I thought I'd go. I'd like to be able to blame the baby, but that's just not true at all. And yeah, haven't played a game, I guess, in 150 days. I played 1 TTS, and that was it. Never really got kicked off into it.
Or you didn't like it? I think we were talking about how Mr. Jonathan Etland is kind of the progenitor of the TTS community, but it's been pushed really hard now by the wonderful Mr. Owen Jackson and all of those guys. Like, it's happening all around the world. I saw that 2 of my favorite people, Darren and Chris Welfare, played a game yesterday. Both phenomenal human beings. So I'm excited to see that. And there is a big TTS tournament coming up soon, organized by Owen, called Hammer Time, which I'll include links to.
I did enjoy it. It was just one of the things that was like, it's not the same. And I think I would probably need to invest just a couple of games to get the hang of it, and I was just like, I don't know if I could be bothered with that as much.
I mean, that's really fair. Yeah.
I enjoy the painting, so if I have a couple hours, I'd rather just like hobby, and I don't have enough time to do both anymore.
Yeah, I couldn't understand that. Yeah, and painting means that you're eventually going to get that army on the tabletop and play with it, which will be cool.
I have a new tournament deadline now, so that is, I mean, that's what we all need, right?
Yeah. What's your tournament deadline? When and where?
February, Northern Ireland, for the Ulster Warlords, run by Bastion Games. Which is
Big Paul.
A team tournament.
Yes, it's a 6-man team tournament. Am I right?
It is a 6-man team tournament. It was 4-man for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But we're testing out 6, so more similar to the Six Nations, which I'm obviously been a fan of, for anyone who knows me.
Yeah, it's a good format. I also have been asked to be on 2 different teams, but I thought it was the same 2 people, or 2 people on the same team asking me to be on the team, Donal, and I said yes to both. So,
so which teams did you sign up for?
Oh, I can't reveal my sources.
Okay.
But so now I feel, because I know that there's a lot of politics as to who you pick. So yeah. So I'm actually just thinking of forming my own team and going over that, and therefore letting everyone down. That's my main plan.
It's definitely an option. I decided to just take over a team. So there was a pre-existing 4-man team, and then I've become the leader of it. In kind of a coup.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Did you kind of like become the admin of the WhatsApp group, then just remove them?
Effectively, yes. But then they set up a Facebook Messenger group where I'm not the admin, but I'm like the spiritual leader. So that's kind of all I was after. I'm not. Just to be clear, I'm not actually the captain because I don't want to be bothered with any of the tactical crap that gets associated. But just the spiritual, motivational leader.
It's the only sort of leader you really need to be. I think that's
my
all my
thoughts.
role is now in the community. Not even spiritual leader, I don't think. Whatever the opposite of that is. The salt miner extraordinaire. A big shout out to Tomlet for subscribing, and also thank you to MJ Pegasus for donating a gift subscription in the channel to Iron Gauntlet. That's fun. And also,
would you call yourself an establishment leader?
Yes, actually, I'm actually the in very much the way that you can be anti-fascist. I'm actually an establishment anti-establishment is my actual title. So I don't know if you've ever been an establishment that's anti-establishment. It's brilliant. It's cyclical. It's the same way I'm a communist and a Tory at the same time, and a terrorist.
That's legitimate.
Yeah, I picked up a lot. I tell you what, lockdown has been, for me, the name of me getting a lot of monikers, like a lot of adjectives and descriptors. I would say that I've enjoyed it, but I don't care.
I think if you talk actively for 1 hour a day, you're just going to call yourself many things.
It's not me though; it's others. Anyway.
Well, you think it's others, but actually you've just been doing monologues for 150 days. I never actually joined your first show.
Are you here?
Just thought I did.
Are you
Exactly.
here?
Exactly.
Oh, Nicky DeWilliams has made a good point. And maybe I'm getting as many names as Custodes. That's what I'll end up with 300 names. Right, so yeah, we're gonna be
Please sign it into your body. Like just tattoo your body with all the names that you call yourself.
Yeah.
Or other people call you.
Right, so today we've seen loads of new Squig news, and that's what we're mainly going to be focusing on and talking about. I want to, so that's the focus for here. Squig Gang, welcome to the team. Yeah, anti-disestablishmentarianism. I can say that, Tristan. Boom, roasted in your face. No problem with that word. It's simpler words and reading that I mainly have a problem with. Right, so let's quickly talk about Squigs very quickly. So the battle tome for Gloomspike Gits came out last year, beginning of the year, so it's like more than a year and a half old, or it's about a year and a half old, but it's one of the older battle tomes now. It doesn't have any sub-allegiances, which is a bit of an issue. So White Dwarf has come out, or is coming out.
Not anymore, Rob.
Oh,
didn't have any sub-allegiances.
But now, yeah, it's got some. And so, yeah, so updating rules in White Dwarf. Let's quickly, Donal, could you quickly give me some sort of like perspective on where you felt the battle tome currently sits and kind of what was useful inside the book?
So the battle tome itself was very keyword constrained, which I thought was really interesting when it came out, because I thought that was going to be the way that the battle tomes were going to go. And then we had many tomes that came out that were much more flexible from pretty much after the Gits book. So I think over time, the strength of the book and the flexibility of the book diminished a lot. From things like characters, not all characters can have artifacts, which now that we've gotten rid of malign portents or malign sorcery artifacts, it's gone. So that was an issue. A lot of the battle line wasn't as flexible, and the battalions were very restrictive, and then the lack of sub-allegiances were quite difficult, and then the bad moon itself was quite random. So in terms of the strength of the book, it's definitely been downgraded over the times. The most competitive builds have been quite grot heavy with magic, and with the release of Seraphon, the Realm Lord's Zinch, that has probably diminished over time. And also it had been quite a debuff heavy army, and with only having 3 endless spells in DHB 20, that was probably like further hit. So I think it's just been kind of knocked by many things over the last 18 months, none of which I would say was probably intentional from the rules team, but it's kind of, there's not been many things coming out that's lending itself to the Gits in terms of adding power to the Gits level. So I don't think it was in the best place versus other tomes, or even versus where it was sort of 6, 12, 18 months ago.
Yeah, I think, and also, so I guess the follow-up question I have is, do you think that it was points? Obviously, we know, and we're about to talk into this, so I don't want to lead into this. Oh, sorry, again, thank you for donating £10 to the Sound Gear Fund. Just a big shout out to everyone that we're raising money to have better player audio at the T-Sports Arena. And there's a little fund at the bottom if anyone wants to chip in there. We're at 37%, which is really exciting. If we get to if we get another 90 quid, we're going to be able to buy 2 sets, which is super exciting, Donald. Like, it's really, really exciting because you'll be able to listen to all that player audio back, and I might just send it all to you to pick out all the times they out of context say the wrong thing and post them up as little links.
I would love that. That would just make my days, especially because I'm not going to be playing games anytime soon.
Yeah, perfect. That's good. But thank you very much to Sorry again, wonderful guy. Big shout out to the Big Cold Fish as well on site. Okay, so my question is do you think that it was? We talk about this a lot on the show, obviously. Do you think it was points that we needed? Like, I felt like Squigs didn't get reduced they didn't get reduced at all actually in the GHB 2020. Did you feel like that there could be some points reductions, or did you think that these rules that we're about to talk about and see, did you think they needed these additional rules like a lot of other armies have?
So I think they need the additional rules. The actual war scrolls themselves, other than Gobapalooza, RIP, I think are relatively decent in general. Like Squigs, the random movement kills you, but that's been the point of Squigs for years, so you can't really complain about that. Like, that's like complaining that Zinch does magic or shoot. But I think with the actual war scrolls themselves, they kind of achieve what they want to. Actually, the Dankhold Trog boss as well is pretty poor. So it was more for me the allegiance abilities, the artifacts, the command traits. There's not enough depth in. I don't think there's enough depth. The Bad Moon is super random. And you have to really invest in it to control it, and there was ultimately just not enough synergy between the within the book and between different factions, or even within factions, some would argue.
So getting this update, you feel, is the right way that they could approach this?
Yes, for all 4 sort of factions, if you count Moonclan Grots, Spiderfang, Squigs, and Trogost as separate factions or sub factions, I think having additional rules is helpful, but then also making sure it's not too Squig specific, or like too sub faction specific, which we can talk about here because there is flexibility. Even though this is ultimately a Squig battalion, there's still flexibility in the rules that it doesn't lend itself entirely to Squigs.
Okay, well, I'm gonna just read out these verbatim, sort of a situation, and then you can kind of like give me some feedback on what you think, and we'll talk about them as we go through. How does that sound?
Delightful, Rob.
Perfect.
Also,
okay.
my baby is like entirely quiet, which I am incredibly shocked with.
Some people have described me as the Baby Whisperer, one of my other names that very few people know. So
just another tattoo.
Or maybe he's just fascinated by Squigs as a future Squig player. He's just like, I need to know the hot goss right away. He wants to get ahead of the meta, I think, is the plan. Anyway, so the Jaws of Mork allegiance ability is a sub-faction, effectively. If your army is a Gloomspite Gits army, you can give it the Jaws of Mork keyword. Any Gloomspite Gits units in your army gain that keyword, but most of the abilities that you're going to see are effective for Squigs, but they all gain the Gloomspite, the Jaws of Mork sub-allegiance, which is fun. Hey, to Bradley, by the way. I hope you're well. Running Riot. So this is just the sub-faction allegiance. So just the fact that they've chosen to be this sub-faction means they get this special ability, which is you can re-roll the roll that determines the move characteristic of friendly Squigs. Not to be underestimated, Donal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. It existed previously in the battalion, the Squig Rider battalion. Getting it just army-wide for free is kind of the whole point of this, right? You're effectively saving 70 points versus the battalion that probably had most of your units that would benefit from it anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty awesome. Also, special shout out that it means the Colossal Squig can get it. So nice of Forge World to benefit.
Yes, yeah. It's good for all Squig units. Like it's it's really good. And like you said, there was a battalion that previously took just to be able to get those rerolls, and it's going to be very, very useful. That unreliability, or in true fashion for Squig players, they roll a 7, but they really wanted to roll like an 11. They'll re-roll it. So it gives you the opportunity to try and spike.
Or they rolled a 7 and they just wanted an 8.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they re-roll it just cause.
Yeah, just cause. Yeah, I think I think that ability to spike, like how far something goes, is going to be really useful. Then they've got a command ability, which effectively you choose a Jaws of Mork, Mangler Squig model, and then until the end, you can use command ability at the start of your phase. If you do so, pick one from the Jaws of Mork Mangler Squig model until the end of the phase. They use the top row on that model's damage table. It doesn't seem to have a range. It's just infinite range.
This is where you realise these things don't get QA'd or playtested. But yeah, that doesn't have a range. If someone was to ask the rules team and then they did do an FAQ for it, which they do for 40k, I suspect that would be limited to 12 or 18 inches. But let's hope nobody asks, because it's fine. Yeah, that's questionable, I think.
I have heard that they do FAQs for 40k. I wonder what that's about. The app's getting updated as well. That's fun.
The 40k app?
Yeah, the 40k app's being updated.
That's crazy.
I know.
Yeah. For all the Azure users. Pay for an app. You know what? I actually, I never wanted to criticize the Azure app, because I was like, listen, if you want it updated, just don't pay and they'll be fine. Then I looked into it. I've been paying for it for 12 months and never noticed. So I didn't even use it. I was just giving away my money. Fantastic.
I think that it might have made a lot of people just unsubscribe. They're like, oh, am I subscribed? Oh, well, no, now I'm not. Anyway.
Yeah. Thank goodness for War Scroll Builder. I'd happily donate £1 a month to that.
Easily.
Yes.
Big shout out. Thank you very much to Pragmatic in the chat, who's also donated some money to the fund. Oh my God, we're at 38%. You legend. That's great. By the way, the one of the teams, we haven't actually announced the teams yet, but they've one of the guys in the chat have just announced that if we send you all of the audio files, they will be quitting the Super Series, as they don't want to be trolled by you. So understand that's your power, Donal.
Which team was it?
I can't say because it's a secret at the minute.
But
they're close to you.
I can't see.
They're close to you. They're close to London, you could say. The kind of the south area.
SLL fiction. I'm guessing it must be fiction, because Benjamin Savage just doesn't want me to have audio of him using out of context. Anytime we go to games together, I try to record him, and then he takes my phone.
Oh wow! Okay, yeah. Interesting.
Well, that's definitely true.
I'm a big fan of the Benjamin. Anyway, so command. So that's an infinite range command ability. So the question is, do you want the Manglers to work on the top bracket? Because aren't they better when they get worse? They're good, then they're bad.
They're good, then they're bad, and then they're good again. And then the other side of that is actually the movement. So it doesn't just benefit the hitting side of things, which is obviously useful, but it actually benefits them trying to roll the 3d6 versus 1d6. So I can actually see some proper use cases out of that.
Yeah, good. Okay.
Although I would say, so I've played during a brief period where I was playing the ogres. Boulderhead has a similar command ability, and while it looks good on paper, it's rarely actually used. Because you ultimately just use your command points for other things.
Definitely. Okay, next one. Next ability. Hold on, I've lost my sheet now. I've lost my sheet. Oh, God. Okay, that's bad news. Right, where is my sheet? Oh, my God.
Do you want me to go through it? It's the command trait.
Yes, please.
So the command trait is Envoy of the Overbinder. You can re-roll field battle shock tests for friendly Jaws of Mork units wholly within 12 inches of the general.
Okay. So how do you feel about that?
So this is where I said earlier it's not limited to just squig units. So actually you could use that as a Troggoth. You could use that as on your stabbers as well. So I think it's okay. It's not necessarily as good as, say, Fight Another Day, which you effectively lose out if you go with this sub-allegiance. But I'm okay with that in the sense that the whole point of sub-allegiance is you have additional rolls and then you also lose out, right? So it's not great, but I think it's fine.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I see. I really don't rate the Squigs anyway. I think that they really needed something like this, and it's a bit difficult to see how. I feel like the strongest thing we're going to get to later is what the battalion, where like that really is going to have some like impact. I think so. I'm neutral, RS, at the minute. I think that's fine.
Yeah, but that's why I think it's the next three. This and the next thing are both things that don't just affect Squigs. So you can actually just take this if you wanted to run, say a Troggoth Hag, right? Who, as the general, who doesn't get a command trait because of keywords. You could actually run her in this, and she gets a command trait suddenly.
Okay. All right. Yeah. That's good. Yes or no?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I mean, this isn't the best rule, right? But at the end of the day, there's low bravery. If you're going Squig heavy or Troggoth heavy, you might not have a lot of command points. So when you start moving forward outside the Loon Shrine range, there's issues, right? So I think this is helpful. It's just not something that you're going to necessarily be super ecstatic about.
Okay. All right. Now, then the artifact of power, I'm back now, is the Ciari Screamer Pig, which already
Screamer
great.
Squig, not pig.
I now want the
no
Screamer.
pigs, unless it's a snuffler.
At the start of the combat phase, you can pick one enemy hero with 3 inches of the bearer. If you do so until in next hero phase, add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons by the bearer that target that hero. Decent?
I think that's great, right?
Yeah, because you can put that on just the Loon Boss or Mangler Squig. Oh, but is that going to affect only the Loon Boss?
No, it's any melee weapons that target by the bearer the target. Yes, sorry, it is. It's just the Moon Cutter or the Moon Prodder or whatever you call it. Okay. Unless Rob, crazy, you take the Troggoth Hag and you're suddenly buffing her weapon.
Perfect. Done.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Or the dank old Trog Boss.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Also, Dank Old Trog Boss +1 to hit on his weapons. Decent. Okay. So now there's an update.
Decent, but not worth it.
Yeah. I mean, Trog, if you're listening, love you. War Scroll update the Bad Moon Loon Shrine. This is interesting. We're seeing some scenery updates for the first time. So effectively, what this says is if your general has the Squig keyword. So effectively, it's always the same unless your general has the Squig keyword. If it does have the Squig keyword, then what happens is then effectively previously if a grot unit died, you could roll a 4+, can't remember exactly when, you'll be able to tell me, and you bring a unit that's half the strength of the unit that died
the end of the turn.
At the end of the turn. But in this case, that previously didn't affect, because it was grot keyworded, it didn't affect Squigs.
No, so it was only the stabbers and shooters.
Yeah. But now you can do it with Squigs, which is cool.
Specifically Squigs instead, right? So there's a couple of things here. One, it's not limited to this sub-faction. So even if you're still taking, say, Fight Another Day and not taking this Jaws of Mork, you can still, if you want to, take this Loon Shrine instead of the one in the book.
Okay.
So this is actually like a scenery update that sits outside the sub-faction. And then the second thing is you don't bring back the stabbers and shooters anymore, so it's not just a buff, it's a replacement / alternative.
Yes. Yeah, okay. All right, good. And that's pretty important because now you can have your big unit of 10 Boingrots, let's say, and you can sling them in onto an objective, hit, get killed, because they're pretty... they're that's 20 wounds with a 4-up save, but still, I feel they're quite fragile. I've always felt that.
They'll battle shock off if you kill one.
Yeah, but it means you're able to bring back...
They're the only unit in the game with negative battle shock, or that's what it feels like.
Yeah, but it feels like you could use them as waves now, right? Throw like a 10 in, they die, use another 5 at the back, move forward, as an example.
Yes, although it is still reliant on the 4+, and I think any Gits player that you ever speak to feels like they never roll that 4-up. Like, I don't know any stories where they roll the 4-up and it wins them the game, even though it theoretically should.
Okay.
But that's just like an anecdotal piece of trivia. And since that's been true for the last 18 months, maybe the next 18 months, we'll just hear loads of stories about how Squigs coming back saved the game.
Oh, and also Rob's making a great point in the chat. Great with Squig herds that you want to battle shock off to cause mortals and then come back.
Yes, yeah, definitely has a role to play, I think.
Yeah, awesome. Oh, so that's cool. That's really cool because it means that their allegiance ability, well, not their allegiance, but their terrain now affects more of the army. Yeah. Okay, good. Then there are two
But
war
this is exactly the sort of thing that could have been brought in for each of the 4 sort of sub-factions, and then it means that you're not sort of being forced to take the hundreds of grots just to try to benefit from this. And the grots tended to not battle shock off soon enough, or not get destroyed soon enough. So 10 Boing grots is very easy to lose, as you said. So I actually do think this makes the Loon Shrine even more useful than it had been in the past.
Yeah. So then there are 2 War Scroll battalions. So there's the Moonjumper Stampede, and then there's the Moonbiter Squigalanche. Now the Moonjumper Stampede you're able to put inside the Moonbiter Squigalanche, and the Moonbiter Stampede is 2 to 3 Jaws of Mork Squighoppers units, or Jaws of Mork Boingrot Bounders units in any combination, and then it's 0 to 1 Jaws of Mork Mangler Squigs. And this is add 1 to the damage characteristic of Fang-filled Gob, massive Fang-filled Gob, and huge, basically any of the Gob attacks used by units in the battalion if they made a charge move in the same turn. So +1 damage on the charge, and they're already
so good.
So good. That's awesome, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yes, yeah. That's what's good about this is you're able to you get the bonus power like you do with the War Chanter, but you can't take that synergy away. As long as you can stop it. I always like counterplay. You can stop it by charging them, but they're flying lunatics who might be able to go super fast and run and charge. So I think that's excellent, and I think that's kind of exactly what they needed. They needed that extra punch on the charge. I think that Games Workshop, or the rules team at least, have started to really understand cavalry a little bit. I think about the Dawn Riders or even Chaos Knights. I think they've started to work out what to do with cavalry a little bit more than they previously did. And I think that's awesome. It's a nice upgrade.
And I think it's great if people learn from their own mistakes, as I read from someone on Twitter once. So thank goodness that's being done by the rules team now.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. Anyway, the final, so the big War Scroll battalion here. By the way, that battalion is 90 points, which I think. It's 140 points, which I think is good. I think that's really positive.
So all these 2 battalions are effectively replacements for the 2 existing ones in the battle tome. So they're the same price as well, I think.
And then this one is one. So this is a kind of like this. If you have to have one of the previous battalions, and then you get 1 Loon Boss on Mangler Squig or Loon Boss on Giant Cave Squig. Then you get 0 to 3 Loon Bosses on Giant Cave Squig, and then you get the aforementioned battalion. The 1 to 3, so you have to have at least 1. Mangler Squig, and then 0 to 2 Squig Herd units. And this is an amazing ability, which Destruction have desperately needed for a while. After armies have been set up, but before the first battle round begins, up to D3 units from this battalion can move up to 6 inches. If both players can move units after the army's been set up, the players must roll off, and the winner chooses who moves first. Now, there's so much to unpack there, because I think you could you can make this a 1-drop battalion, and you get pre-game moves. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have the magic that you would necessarily want in there, but you can make a low drop army. But that how do you feel about that pre-game move? I mean, it's been used so well in other armies at the minute.
So I love it. I'm really surprised it's not a random move, because like it's the only time Squigs will move consistently, other than pylons. So thematically, I think, well, in terms of the actual tactical and competitive side, I think it's incredible. Moving after your opponent's moved, you can either push forward or retreat, which means if you're one drop, you can be really aggressive, they deploy back, and then you can move outside of their range to effectively force them to move forward. Or you can be really aggressive, then move forward and then effectively turn one alpha strike them. So I think that's awesome as a sort of very glass hammery army. I think it has some utility.
Oh, I think it's really, really useful. I think the ability to just push out and then screen is useful for like the smaller, like kind of like little throwaway units that you might want to throw away, to just hold an objective and then recycle. But like you say, that ability to just go super, super fast, very, very early is terrifying. You'll be able to just run up the board and then go do all those charges. I mean, the biggest problem I feel, this is the Gloomspite Kits players' complaint all the time, is that their allegiance ability really isn't affecting turn one, and it's in effect. Can the pregame move work on herd? Is that right? So D3 units from this battalion.
Yeah, so
move.
There's up to two Squig herds units, so it can do.
Yeah. So you could have two Squig herd units like run up the board 6 inches, so they could hold on to objectives, or if you wanted to go faster. But like I was saying, there's the issue with, if I've got this right, in that the run and charge. The only way you'd be able to get the run and charge on the first turn was if you used Squiggler spell. Would be the only way to push everything super fast forward turn one.
Yeah. So the only issue with Squigs in this, and in terms of at home, I'm more than okay. If you go super heavy Squigs, you tend to be starved of command points because there's lots you want to do with it. There's the Great Cave Squig for the +3. There's the Squiggler, which is a spell, but then that means you're bringing a Fungoid at least. And if you bring a Fungoid, I guess then he might generate some command points. But you don't really have any other ways to generate command points during the game. But I think with the sort of options available of Squiggler, this movement, the Giant Cave Squig, you can actually be fairly reliably aggressive. And I say fairly reliably because you also get the reroll movements as well. So you should be on average going 7, right? Like more than on average before, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and then if you bang that onto that 6, you got like 13 inches, like puts you into the midfield, but it doesn't give you like that. I'm definitely going to be able to charge early doors. I like the idea that maybe
but
you
it's
could
13 +3 because then you use the +3 move from the Giant Cave Squig, right?
Oh, okay, all right. So a little bit further up the field. I like the idea that you move 6. Yeah, I like the idea that you move 6 pre-game, then you roll it. If you re-roll it, and if you just don't go particularly far, you just kind of pull back.
Yeah.
He's like, cool, I didn't get it. I'm all good, potentially. Which is, so overall, I feel like these are very, very good upgrades and very necessary upgrades, but none of it seems over the top to me.
Yeah, like even within this, you only get up to 3 Boingrop Binders / Squig Hopper units. And so if you're trying to go 1 drop, you only get 2 Boingrop Binders in it, because then you have to use Squig Hoppers and add in the 2 Squig Herd units. So you can go 1 drop, but it's not like amazing. There's definitely limitations to it. And if you want to add in the spell, that suddenly makes it 2 drop. And it's to be honest, in the current meta, trying to rely on a spell going off without buffs is kind of problematic, I think, would be one word to describe it.
Yeah, I also think that it gives them the tools to potentially fight in the game, which is very shooting heavy, and the ability to at least screen out. It depends what shooting. Like, you can't really screen out Kharadron Overlord shooting, but you can kind of screen out Flamer shooting with the pre-game move a little bit. Not Screamer, sorry, Flamer shooting with the pre-game move, and you definitely can do that with Salamanders. So those are all like things you can kind of process and deal with and push out, which is useful. And also the ability to fly on those Squig units is really good for being able to jump screens and get in places that people don't want you to get. Which is, and then now you're delivering a lot more of a knockout punch. And there's always still the ability to also hand a Gork something. So I feel like the army still has lots of options for playing aggro. It's just I would have liked to maybe have seen reroll charges also as just the allegiance ability. Maybe that's a bit over the top, but I feel like it's all random movements, so just constantly rerolling would have been worth it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, sure, but it's destruction, so I'm not expecting. I'm not expecting like a lot going on. As for this, I'm genuinely happy with it. I think that's positive. Rerolling charges makes Hand of Gork more interesting rather than just sort of a threat that you never actually use. Yeah. Especially because there's no real way to buff the charges.
Yeah. It's just not. Yeah, it's just not helpful, right? Like it doesn't work that way. Okay, but overall, I think excellent changes, and I think like just make the Squig element of that book at least a lot more effective, or at least more effective. I definitely don't think over the top in any way. Not like we saw with like Selesky's Host, which is obviously insane. So like that was
no Slanesh.
No. And so I'd be excited to hear what everyone else in the world Squig thoughts are in comments or some feedback, and see what you think. Twitch chat, have you got any thoughts? What you think? I think it's good. It's a bit of a shame though. It's only one sub-faction of the 4 really that are in that book, and I do wonder why we've seen this. It almost as if someone who owns this army and has direct contact with the rules team is able to produce themselves some new rules, but I don't really know the reasoning. And hopefully we see 4 more in the future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think given how popular Spiderfang are, we could definitely see White Dwarf produce a Spiderfang article.
Yeah. I mean, Spiderfang would have really, and Trogs. Yeah, but it's still a punchier glass cannon. Like Owen said in the chat. That's all it is. It's just a punchier glass cannon. But it does have the ability, I think it can't be underrated, because once you throw those units of 10 bounders up, or a big block of 15, or whatever it is you might do, and they die, that's it done. But now being able to have that unit of 7 or 5 or whatever it is, come out the Loon Shrine in the backfield, maybe just hold your back objectives while maybe you push forward with some other elements of your army, is all like it means that, because the Squig army just kind of, well, the whole Gitz army really works like a wave, right? It controls the board space, it pushes forward, it dominates the midfield, and then if you can get into the backfield, then they really struggle because all their characters are pretty open for a kick in if you get in there. So now being able to maybe screen off that back bit is quite useful. So it'll be very fun to see this army play.
Honestly, the list I really want to run with this is lots of Squigs with the Troll Hag. Just because the Troll Hag hasn't been able to get an artifact for the whole time for reasons. And actually that new artifact would work quite well on her, I think.
Okay,
Super
all right,
cool.
well, it's been... there's no more to say on that, so I don't think we really need to labour the point. It's been lovely talking to you, Owen. Thank you very much. Owen? Oh my God, Donal.
Wow.
Sorry. I was reading Owen's name. While I was also... I can't see you. Donal.
I've never been more offended than being compared to Owen Jackson, just because he's much older than me.
Oh my God.
And has more hair. It's very offensive.
I'm really sorry. I have been locked in this little room for a while now, so I've gone a bit strange.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, in terms of just Warhammer ability, I've always been much better than Owen, and he's never beaten me.
I like that. I've just created a division now. Yeah, I know. Donal, it'd be nice if you came on again in 150 days more time now.
Oh my God, imagine we're still locked up by then. It'd be so depressing.
It would be. I'm excited. I don't think there's any more coming out of the White Dwarf on this, and I think it's nice. There's also games which have said there's a big reveal this weekend, so I'm hoping Gargants are going to be revealed this.
I feel like they're just teasing the Gargans. They've not actually produced them. They just did some really good renders. Just as a joke.
Have you got any shout outs you want to make? Anyone out there in the world living their lives?
I would shout out the rest of my team that are following me for Warlords. So we're going to go and win that, I think, because we've got Chris Caves Jr., the prodigal son himself. Yeah, and also Colin Cochran, because he's now a granddad of Warhammer, not just a dad of Warhammer.
Is he? Has he had a little baby? Well, no,
I mean, well, he's my dad, and I've had a little baby, so there we go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And he looks old enough to be a granddad, so just glad it finally happened for him.
I'm not touching that. I'm leaving this. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you. Thank you to everyone on the Twitch chat who's joined us live. You guys have been great. Thank you to everyone listening to the podcast. Please stay hydrated. And of course, thank you to everyone that's working on Patreon. I do this for a job, and I couldn't do it with a job without you guys. So thank you very much. Have a great day. Look after yourselves. And we'll be live later tonight. Me, Dan, Nathan, James, talking about the Shadespire warbands and what we think about them, and if we think they're any good. And the answer probably is no. But
they look pretty, though.
They look pretty. And there's a new Uruk one. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, does it look better than the normal brutes? No, but they look different. And different is okay, Rob, because that's what Lockout has taught me.
I'd even end the show saying diversity is great. That's how I'll end the show. Yeah.
Diversity is great.
Is great. Everyone have a great day. Look after yourselves. See you soon.